The World Health Organization and the UNAIDS conducted a survey and found that more than 50% of the world's population have some sort of stigma towards diseases, including HIV, mental health, and one in particular, leprosy. But what is leprosy? What has generated all this stigma around leprosy? To have a little background on what leprosy is, leprosy has been around for hundreds of years. And it's a disease that is very curable, it's treatable, not easily transmissible. Yet around the world, and especially in third world countries, has a stigma that has been around for as long as the disease has been there. But why? As we mentioned, leprosy is very treatable. And according to the Cleveland Clinic and the CDC, nowadays leprosy can be treated by doing what they call a multi-drug therapy, which it involves being able to give a person that has leprosy different types of antibiotics. And this will cure the disease. Yet, one thing is curing the disease. Another is taking away the stigma that this has left on a person. It's incredible that even nowadays, in many countries, for instance in India, there is what we would call leprosy colonies. This is a place in where people are sent when they are diagnosed with leprosy. And they're sent there because their community has rejected them, and a lot of times even their family has rejected them. And for what reason? Because they've contracted this disease. And as we mentioned, leprosy is very treatable and is very not easily transmissible, yet it creates all this stigma around people. There's a case of a young person in Niger, in Africa, who mentions that when he was going to lunch at his canteen, he said that people would not sit with him. People would not even talk to him. And he would be the last person who would get food, who would be served. Why? Because nobody wanted to touch the utensils, cups, or plates that he had used because they were afraid. But in reality, it's not the disease, because all this stigma and all this racism towards leprosy, it's not based on medical facts. In most cases, and in a lot of these countries, in these third world countries, it's based on just pure skepticism. People are afraid, or people have the misconception that if you catch or if you are diagnosed with leprosy, it's because you've committed a certain sin or because you've been cursed. And that is far from the truth. Leprosy is a medical condition, and not because you did something wrong or because you've been cursed. So what is it that we can learn from all this? What is it that we as humans, as neighbors, as community members, learn from this and maybe implement it in our own communities? Well, for many of us, we all know somebody who has a disorder, maybe a disease. But how do we treat it? How do we look at that person? What do we see, or what do we look when we see them? Do we encourage them? Do we give them a hug? Or do we tend to stay away? Do we tend to be stigmatized by what they have, or be reluctant to sit with them, as some people used to do back in the early 80s when HIV was first diagnosed, where people were scared. And yet now we know that the disease is not transmissible in ways where we thought it was. So we have to keep one thing in mind, that a lot of times the diseases or the stigma or the racism behind these diseases is more harmful than the actual disease. So that's when us as a community have to come together and see what we can do. What changes can we make? Not only to make these people welcoming, but to be part and to have them belong to this community that we all cherish. Now, does anybody have any questions? No? All right.